And hello guys, welcome to another day with Zimaleta. In today's video I would like to talk a little bit about sprinters. As you see, my two silver sprinters in the back. I'm going to be talking about check engine lights, limp modes, stuff like that. Some of the possible causes of check engine light check engine light codes, and some of the causes of limp modes. So let's begin. It might actually be a long one, but one of my viewers has asked me this type of question. He would like to see more videos on this type of topic and stuff like that. So I kind of thought, I'm going to go ahead and make a video on it. So let's begin. First of all, before we begin, to some of my new viewers, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. And one thing I do want to get out of the way, I'm not a mechanic. I did not even study this stuff on sprinters. I did not even look up these videos on YouTube. At the time when I was not doing my YouTube channel, I tried to search for some problems and stuff on the YouTube channel. I could not find it. The best source of information was sprinter forums. So if I would have a problem, I would be sitting there for pretty much sometimes 24 hours just looking at the forums, reading, taking screenshots, writing stuff down, and then trying to make sense of every single problem, because to each problem everybody has a different reply, everybody has a different take on it. Some stuff is right, some stuff is wrong, but 10 years later and stuff, after owning the sprinter, I've learned a lot. And 2 years ago, of course, I started my YouTube channel, and in the hopes that I could actually help out other sprinter owners figure out your own problems and stuff. But keep in mind, I'm not a mechanic, so everything that I say with a simple type of language, easy to understand. A lot of times I'm not going to remember parts, so I'm going to just make them up, and I'll tell you that I'll just make it up as I go along. But as far as check engine light codes, first of all, let me tell you some of the breakdowns that I haven't seen yet over the years of owning sprinters. And of course I have owned 2001 sprinter, 2002, basically 2001, 2002, it's very similar, and 2003, but I've never really seen any 2001s. But basically guys, 2004 to 2006 is another model that I've owned, and I owned a 2007. So I got a pretty good mix of understanding with different type of sprinters and their problems. But usually guys, when I get a limp mode, it's not always something serious. It's usually something very simple to fix. The part that's not simple about it is actually knowing that it is a simple situation, and that's where I come in. I would like to actually explain to you in a simple way to understand this type of stuff, because sometimes if you're gonna take it to a mechanic or something, they're gonna make it look like it's very serious, because look, let's just be real. Mechanic shops, they're out there to make money. They're not out there to really solve your problems. So the more parts that they could throw in your car, the more money they make, the more hours they could charge. And if they're charged per hour $150 per hour, then hey, you're gonna be paying arm and a leg before you leave the dealership, and you probably just came in for something simple. It really pains me to hear my friends, especially one of my friends has paid over $5,000, guys, and his bills was for over $7,000. He came in with a check engine light, and still left with a check engine light, but he had to pay $5,000, and that is after negotiating down from $7,000, just because the dealer, in order to fix the check engine light, they were throwing parts at it. They put in a brand new computer in his sprinter. They put in a particulate filter. They changed some other stuff, and that ran his bill up, and it never got rid of his check engine light. And the reason he was trying to actually fix his check engine light, because he was not passing inspection in his state of Tennessee. So luckily I don't have any inspections here, and sure, I always have check engine lights on. Sometimes they're off, if I could find a solution. But some of these check engine lights, man, it's just you just can't really get rid of them. It's something. So this is kind of the thing that I wanted to kind of talk about in this video, because like my viewer said, 1 week the van would be completely fine, and the next week he's got a limp mode, and kind of what's causing all this kind of stuff. Well, first of all, let me kind of tell you what's some of the parts that I've never seen really break, but they do need kind of a little adjustments and for you to take care of them. Well, I've never seen a fuel rail go bad. I heard many people say, well, fuel rails are going bad. I never seen one go bad. I never seen personal fuel injectors to go bad. I've never had like a bad turbo or a bad turbo actuator. Um, and I guess that's about it, you know. But for everything else, man, I almost want to say for everything else, it's MasterCard. Kind of like a commercial. But here's the thing, guys. Sometimes there are problems, usually like with EGRs. So that's the most annoying one you're gonna get. You're gonna have limp modes due to the EGR. You're gonna get limp modes due to the turbo. You're gonna get limp modes due to turbo actuator and stuff like that. So the most check engine lights you're gonna get in 2004, 2006, and some models before that will be EGRs and turbos. That is like the most. And if you are getting some fuel rail codes and stuff like that, well, that has to do with like many different reasons. Part of the reason that could be for the you know, like low fuel rail pressure is because yes, you are getting an injector that goes bad. But how do I, you know, like know about injectors if I really never had one go bad on me in the past? Well, that's because I installed a bad one, and it really took some doing to try to figure out, you know, what I did. So man, I don't even know like where to begin. Man, let's just start with injectors since I already started talking about it, because my mind is like, I'm getting a mind blow, and I know you guys like sometimes just like realize this. It's like, man, this guy's getting mind blown over here. Yeah, and of course I want to talk about the transmission limp modes as well. I'm gonna pretty much cover all the limp modes in this video. So if it's a long one, don't worry, just keep watching it, guys. And I'm pretty sure by the time you watch this video, you're gonna be pretty much aware kind of like of what's going on and possible causes with your Sprinter, you know, like as to what's going on. I'm even gonna touch on O2 sensors, kind of like what's happening and stuff like that. And I'm just gonna pretty much talk about a 2004 through 2006 type of vehicle, and the one before that, even though it's a little bit different, 2.7 liter, it still qualifies. Of course, with a 2004 through 2006, they got rid of a lot of problems. They kind of like redid a lot of stuff, and they made it a little bit better, so it has a little bit less problems. But anyways, let's begin with fuel injectors. Let's say you got a limp mode due to the fuel rail pressure is being too low. So sometimes somebody's gonna tell you, well, you got to replace the fuel rail. But the way I kind of look at it, look, if a fuel rail is throwing you code, it's telling you there's low fuel rail pressure, it is not because your fuel rail is bad. It's trying to tell you there's a problem with the fuel system, and it's not creating enough you know, boost to get your engine started, or, you know, keeping it running good. So you know, that being said, the usual cause, the very usual cause, is going to be your fuel injectors, guys. The next cause, I would say, will be your high pressure fuel pump, and the very next one, maybe even the electronical fuel pump that's inside of your fuel tank, which is kind of rare. I've never seen that one really go bad. Sure, they're gonna go bad, but there's going to be signs of that happening. But man, I want to talk about a lot of stuff in this video, guys. It's a good thing that I actually decided to make it right now, because man, this is the kind of thing I want to talk about today. So what's going on when you got a low fuel rail pressure? Well, guys, usually your fuel injector is having two things that's happening to it. It's either open position, and sometimes it's closed, but let's just say it's open. And when a fuel injector is kind of like open or halfway open, it's basically what it's doing is when you're trying to start the engine, you cannot start the engine up, or it takes a little bit longer for you to start the engine up. And because you're doing that, and it cannot build up enough pressure, it's kind of like basically pouring a lot of, you know, well, let's just say spraying. I do want to say pouring, because it's really not really spraying anything. It's just way too open, and it's just constantly spraying diesel into the cylinder. And what's gonna happen is, you know, you're trying to twist the engine over and over and over and over until to the point where it's going to be really hard to even crank it over. It's gonna be like really slow. Well, that's because there's so much diesel already like in your cylinder. It is not building enough pressure. The engine is having a really hard time to even press all that diesel together, because there's just so much of it in there. So what's gonna happen? You're gonna leave the vehicle alone for a little bit, and then that diesel from the cylinder is actually going to go past you know, like the cylinders and stuff, and basically make it out your exhaust manifold, It's going to get out through there, it's going to go to your downpipe, it's going to travel all the way inside your muffler. That's actually where it's going to end up. Some of it's going to be like in the catalytic converter. So the more you keep trying to start your Sprinter with that problem, the more diesel you can actually put in your exhaust pipe. So that being said, I want to tell you guys this other thing. Let's say you just bought a vehicle, because I've seen somebody that just bought a vehicle. Hey, they could be having just a fuel injector problem that needs to be fixed, but somebody looks like was working already on that Sprinter and replaced the fuel injectors, or so they say. And right now that Sprinter is creating clouds of, well, I'm not sure if it's clouds, but if it is creating clouds of white smoke, like so much white smoke like crazy, it looks almost like a kind of like a runaway diesel. A lot of times it's, I mean, if it's running good, it's starting good and stuff. If you could tell, it's just running good, but it's like, why is it smoking? This crazy smoke. Is my turbo going out? Because usually that's the kind of smoke you're gonna be getting. But guys, when I had this problem, this is actually just speaking from experience, guys. I installed a bad fuel injector. I was told it was a good fuel injector, but it was a used injector. And when I installed it, I could not get my Sprinter started, and because of that, fuel rail, could not build up enough pressure, and it was just basically, spraying diesel inside of the cylinder. And when I did figure this out, and I installed the correct fuel injector, and I got the van started, man, it started smoking like crazy. So it was like a pretty scary moment for me, because I'm thinking, why is it smoking like this? It wasn't smoking before. Is this another bad fuel injector? And that's why I'm like trying to like refer to one of my viewers having this. I think I've seen this comment like several days ago. Somebody bought a Sprinter with like, it just makes white smoke. So here's kind of like what I'm thinking. Possibly they already fixed the problem. Let's just say, I'm gonna, speculative speaking, they fixed the problem, but they started it up, and then, man, it's like white smoke. So they're thinking, man, this must be like a bigger problem. Let's just sell this thing. And then you end up picking it up for, pennies on the dollar. And now you're dealing with this problem. And you're like, man, this is smoke over here. What's wrong? Maybe it's a turbo. Maybe it's fuel injectors. Guys, before you do anything, let's just let that van just run. And if you are really concerned and you're thinking that maybe your turbo is eating too much oil, do check your oil and stuff. Every once in a while, just check it to see if like if it's falling, because hey, it could be eating all the oil, and it's just kind of like creating clouds of smoke. But anyways, guys, guess why it's making the white smoke? All that diesel that went inside of your exhaust pipe, which I was actually leading you to really kind of like understand this, it's all inside of your muffler. It's all inside of your catalytic converter. So when you started that Sprinter up, that diesel is being heated up over there, like, and it actually kind of catches on fire from all that hot exhaust. And if you look closely enough, and if it's like pretty late in the day, just bend like in the middle, just bend down in the middle of your Sprinter and look at your muffler. It's going to be kind of glowing like red. Yeah, it's gonna have like this like a metal melting type of look to it. Like it's just gonna be like this glow to it. So if that's happening, just do that test at night, and you're gonna see just like piles of smoke and it's glowing red. Well, you just gotta have to burn that diesel off. And I guess the best way to do it is just either drive it like that, and probably maybe do it sometime at night, so you're not gonna get like in trouble, because that smoke is so bad, guys. I'm telling you, like, so bad. I'm not talking about just a little white smoke coming out of your tailpipe, guys. It's going to be it's going to look like somebody lit the house on fire or something. It's just gonna be like so much white smoke. I mean, you're gonna be creating a cloud. That's what you're gonna be doing. And it's going to look very concerning. You're going to think, man, that does not look right. And it's not right. And that's because that diesel is just basically just burning all up over there, like in that pipe. So that's actually what's going on. So you're just going to have to, wait it out. Maybe just keep it parked. Maybe just let it all burn out, and it's going to be normal again. So that is that problem. Okay, so getting back to the fuel injectors again, being a limp mode. A lot of times these fuel injectors, they are known for leaking fuel injectors. And there's two types of leaks. There is basically a leak that happens at the seal, where it's a copper washer. That copper washer is usually not installed properly, and I have a video on this and explaining everything, but it is shaped a little bit kind of like a contact lens, like upside down. It's a very slight curve to it, so that curved portion needs to face down, and then it basically closes the gap down, and then the rest of it seals the injector up like pretty good. So basically kind of like that's what's happening. So basically, due to the fact that even a lot of dealers, they're not installing it correctly, a lot of mechanics not installing it correctly, you know, heck, I mean, you just don't know who had the Sprinter before you, and they probably had it serviced and they didn't install it correctly. So it's going to be having a you know, like a fuel injector leak, and that is a big problem. That's why you hear the term called Black Death. It's just kind of like the diesel that is actually spraying at the bottom, some of it, you know, it's not burnt and it's being kind of like spewed up and stuff because there's like so much pressure, so some of it's going to get out, and it's going to basically burn, like because due to the heat it's going to burn and turn into like black tar, and it's going to be like all over your fuel injector cover. Like it's just going to be like all over there. It's just going to be a big tar mess, and yeah, that's like a real problem. So that's like another thing that causes check engine lights to come on, and like it could cause like limp mode for sure, because what happens is when you're gonna park your Sprinter with that type of problem, that tire is going to seal up the leaking portion, and you're gonna turn your van on and it's gonna sound fine. So you're gonna be thinking, okay, well, things are fine. And then if you drive it after a while, you're thinking, huh, why is it feeling like it barely pulls, like especially like up hills, like it feels like you have like low compression and stuff. So I'm no mechanic, but I'm thinking, look, if you're having a leak out of the cylinder, you're gonna be losing some compression, and as you're losing that compression, it's gonna feel like your engine's about to explode just climbing that hill, like even if you're like lightly loaded. So that's like that other thing. So you got to get that fixed the correct way. And also, like another problem with a leak that happens is actually it's the return line on the fuel injector that starts leaking, and that return line leakage, like when it happens, basically it's going to like, here's like what happens. The fuel injector on top has a return line that it's a plastic piece that plugs in right into the fuel injector. Some of them are plastic, and some of them are metal. You're lucky if you got a metal one. If you don't, replace it with a metal one. It's like a whole fuel line that's got these nozzles that are like, they're just metal. I have metal on mine. I'm not sure the one that I'm driving if it's metal or not, but I had metal one on my other Sprinter. What happens is these plastic nozzles, they pretty much, due to heat and just being old and stuff, they end up cracking and breaking. And when you're servicing fuel injectors, it's like really easy to just you know, like unplug the fuel injector and just break that thing, and you're not gonna like notice it. And then the fuel line is going to be actually spraying diesel and right into that pan where all the injectors are located. So then that diesel is just gonna like basically pour down in the back of your diesel engine, like as you're driving. So it's not gonna be very noticeable because there's a pipe that hangs right at the back of your engine. So some of you guys might be like looking back there and you're thinking, what is this pipe? Where's this diesel coming from? What should it be attaching to? And it should not be getting attached to nothing. It's basically a pipe that basically leaks the diesel out, guys. So yeah, so that's kind of like another problem. So sometimes if you're thinking that possibly your low fuel rail pressure is due to the fact that the return line is broken, just kind of check that fact. Just remove that plastic cover and look underneath the plastic cover. See if you got any of that black tar buildup. If you don't, just take a look. See if it's a little bit moist. If it smells like diesel, because then then you have this problem, and it's really hard to tell sometimes, guys. So that's why it's kind of like important to look at that stuff. And also, if you cannot really find anything, just idle the diesel, just kind of like let it run and observe if there's any kind of like drops of diesel, you know, like in the middle of your vehicle or in the front. Just observe if you got any kind of like leaking oil or anything. I always observe, guys. Every time I fuel up at the gas station, I walk around my vehicle. I do complete walk-around inspection, kind of like the truckers do it. And I look at everything. I look at my tires. I look at my tire pressure. I monitor if there's any kind of leakages goes on. I look at my lights, see if any of them went out, so I could change them so I don't get pulled over by the cops. Because, you know, if you take care of your vehicle, you know, you're gonna get like pretty much like less problems. So anyways, I didn't expect this video about fuel injectors to be kind of long. I still have a lot of stuff to say, so I'm just going to keep it as a fuel injector video. In my next video, I'm going to talk about other problems. It's really surprising, you know, like how much information is in here. So I could be talking for like an hour on the stuff, easy, you know. So anyways, where's another fuel like a low fuel rail pressure problem? Well, it's basically in your high pressure fuel pump. I'd never seen one that actually just broke, okay? But what happens with the high pressure fuel pumps, guys, is after a while, the bolts that's facing the engine, and you cannot actually see them because it's, you know, it installs usually with 3 bolts to your engine blocks. However, there is holes for 4 bolts, but I only seen 3 of them for some reason. Go figure, either one missing, or maybe they just install it with 3. But it's fine, I guess. Those high pressure fuel pumps, they start leaking, and due to the fact that they're leaking, and you cannot really see that they're leaking diesel because they're leaking kind of like on the side of the engine block, and maybe some of it maybe passes inside. But if you remove the high pressure fuel pump, you're gonna notice there's like a little channel that they made, so if it does leak, the diesel kind of like makes its way out. And as it makes its way out, it goes on your belts. It basically oils your belts. Your belt could actually fall off, and it damages your alternator because oil's gonna make it down in there. So look at your alternator. If it's gonna be like really dirty and greasy, look, it should not be like that. It's either due to the fact that diesel is getting on it, or your turbo resonator is leaking and it's basically dropping oil like right on top of that. So, or the connections are bad somewhere, or your boost pressure is low, because inside of those turbo pipes, there's when air is traveling, there's also oil, so some of that oil is going to be dropping on there. So that's going to make your alternator not last as long. But moving on to, you know, back to the high pressure fuel pump, you know, this is the black piece that's located in front of your engine, guys. In case you guys are thinking, well, where is this thing? It's a mechanical pump. It is designed with 2 different metals. I believe, you know, like one of them could be like a stainless steel and aluminum put together. Don't quote me on this, I'm just guessing at this point, but it's 2 different type of metals. And as it gets kind of cold, like it is like right now, it is very likely to notice this type of problem with the high pressure fuel pump. So I recommend you taking a look at yours. And how can you actually check this? Is by actually doing like you start it up in a cold weather, and just you know, once you start your vehicle up, first of all, it's going to be noticeable that it's going to take a lot longer for you to start it up, and you're going to be thinking it's glow plugs, and it could be weak battery and stuff. But look at the front of your engine and see if you got any drips, and try to catch some of that stuff in your napkin or like a little bucket and stuff, and smell it, see if that's diesel. And if that's diesel, then you got a high pressure fuel pump that's leaking, and it's only going to get worse as time progresses. Due to the vibration of engine is working, you know, like with diesels, and I guess with any car, these bolts in the back of the high pressure fuel pump, they basically become unwinded. And as they become unwinded, these 2 pieces of metal that's actually connected to each other, they become a little bit separated. And I believe this happens kind of like internally, pretty much. And then the diesel starts leaking out. So that can cause a low fuel rail pressure because it cannot build it fast enough due to the fact that there's a leak. Now in the summertime, you're not going to really notice that because in the summertime, it is not that cold, so the metal is staying pretty much kind of like normal. But it's kind of, I guess, expanded, you know, like in the summertime, you know, due to the warm temperatures and stuff. So you're not going to notice this high pressure fuel pump leak. To catch the high pressure fuel pump leak now, it's going to be wintertime. It's easier to catch. Due to the cold temperatures, that's when it's the most likely scenario for it to start leaking. Due to the fact that these 2 metals are shrinking, and once they contract, they create gaps, enough gaps for the, you know, for diesel to escape. And guys, it does not take much for it to start leaking diesel, because due to the high pressures that fuel rail creates, it's just basically, you know, it's going to be really easily, you know, causing those leaks and stuff. It's also going to give you a hard time starting your vehicle up. You're going to be like just starting it up and stuff like that. So if you're already having this hard time starting it up like in the summertime, then obviously high pressure fuel pump is something you're going to need to take a look at, because it's possible those bolts are too loose. It's creating very low pressure, and it just cannot start your vehicle up. And of course it could be your fuel injectors as well. I've seen many of this kind of stuff happen. I had one of my friends called me up. He only had 37,000 miles on his Sprinter van. He bought it with like 17,000 miles. I couldn't believe it that he bought a Sprinter with such low miles. And at 37,000 miles, he was fueling up at the station, shuts his van off. He put some kind of fuel injector cleaner in there. I'm not sure what brand he used. And then he cannot actually start his vehicle up right after fueling up. So yeah, keep in mind, don't turn your van off if you're driving, especially with the load at gas station. This is a diesel, it's not really creating sparks, so you should be pretty safe. I never shut mine off, and as you see, truckers, they never shut theirs off either. So I take that kind of like from their training manual. You know, they just don't shut the diesel off. Just make sure your belongings are safe, and you know, you lock your van up when you leave. You know, like make yourself like a spare key or something, but keep it running, guys, because it avoids a lot of problems. Because at the point where you're actually fueling up, your starter maybe is already dead. You just don't know it. So when you turn it off, maybe it's not going to start. Your battery might be too weak, it's not going to start. Your alternator maybe like will stop charging, you just don't know. And especially something could happen to your fuel injectors, and then it's gonna, you know, cause your van to not start, like it happened to my friend. It was a fuel injector problem. So he explained all the symptoms to me, and I'm telling him, look, it's the fuel injector. He's like, no, it's not the fuel injectors. I'm like, it is, according to everything you're telling me. And he's like, no, it's not. I think it's the actual fuel pump. He changes the fuel pump, nothing. He changes the fuel rail, nothing. He changes high pressure fuel pump, nothing. I'm like, look, it's your fuel injectors. He's like, no, 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 it's not fuel injectors. He takes the van to the dealer, and the dealer says it's fuel injectors. And then it costs them an arm and a leg for all the injectors and installation and stuff like that. So yeah, guys, it could happen to even a Sprinter with low miles. So you might be wondering, like, why such a low mile Sprinter is having issues? Well, that's because, guys, I mean, think about it. 2006 Sprinter with 37,000 miles, and he got it at 17, was doing much sitting, you know, because it belonged to some kind of security company, and they pretty much used it as an office, and they probably moved it around from time to time, and it did not rust. It looked excellent. It was really good. I looked at that van, so I'm like thinking, yeah, it does have, you know, correct amount of miles on there, or somebody done a really good job to hide that fact. I mean, they would have to do a complete restoration. And that guy paid $27,000 for this vehicle, guys. This was like 3 years ago, and basically this problem happened. But here's kind of like what's going on. It might have low fuel, you know, it might have like low miles, but the thing about it is, guys, the plastics, they're just as old. The years has been going by. You know, like the fuel injectors, they're rusting. So it is doing, you know, like it's the job is doing its, the rust is doing its job to rust parts out, to cause problems. And you know, guys, when the vehicle sits for a long time, you're gonna have problems. So it does not matter like that it's got low miles. Even like performance cars that, you know, people buy and they store them for a long time in the garages, if they don't start them up, guys, they're gonna have problems. Like Ferraris, Lamborghinis, you name it, guys. It don't matter. They're gonna have problems just from sitting there, and that's just what happens. So diesels, they like to be driven, guys, and you might have a high mileage Sprinter, but because it's been driven and taken care of, maintained, it's actually going to be probably better than some low mileage Sprinters. You know, I guess don't take my word for it, or do, but this is speaking from experience, guys. I have some of the high mileage Sprinters that you guys will see. I currently own 5 Sprinters. I have a lot on my plate, so I cannot fix everything and just go, because this is not the only thing that I do. If I was just living in a normal type of house, type of situation, and just kind of like, you know, like paying my bills or whatever, and not having to do any kind of like remodeling and that kind of stuff, then I would have maybe more time to fix my stuff. But guys, I really like my situation to where, you know, I'm trying to work on my house and fix the stuff, and, you know, kind of like that. But you know, eventually this place, it's going to be completely fixed up, and I don't have to do anything to it. I'll still do stuff to it, but it's going to be kind of like, okay, well, we need to do this little modification or this little addition and stuff like that, and we just go kind of slow at it. Like right now, I need to do everything. It's just, yeah, it's just a lot. So you're gonna see a lot of videos on this type of topic. But yeah, guys, you know, there's a lot more stuff I could mention about fuel injectors and high pressure fuel pumps and stuff like that. That, you know, could be basically really helpful and beneficial and stuff. But at this point, this is all I want to say right now. I really can't think of like much else to say. And I do have other videos that are similar. Just take a look at those. I could say some different stuff on there. But as far as the limp modes, when it has to do with fuel injectors and, you know, high pressure fuel pumps and, you know, fuel rails and stuff, I think I pretty much covered it like in this video. Oh, one more thing. This is pretty important. Man, how could I forget this? Your fuel filter. pretty sure you guys wonder, well, how often you should replace it. You know, some of you guys probably replace it every oil change. Some of you guys every second oil change. I do think it's a waste of money to change them that often. I personally change it like when I actually do have a problem with a fuel rail. I mean a fuel filter. And what kind of problem do I actually have? This happens kind of rare, because I drive like for a while. Like, why? That's why I'm saying like it's rare. I could easily drive 60 to 80,000 miles on a single fuel filter. I only start changing it when I do feel like there's a problem. Like for some reason that maybe my vehicle's shutting off. It should be working, but it shuts off, or something else. And then I'll go ahead and change it, just because it's the cheapest thing that you could change, and see if it changes anything. But guys, here's how you could tell that your high pressure, that your fuel filter needs changing. If you're gonna be like driving, especially like in the mountains and stuff, you're kind of going uphill, and like I'm telling you guys, it barely pulls. Like it feels like by you hitting the gas, like it doesn't even do anything. Like that, you could see the RPMs are kind of dropping, the vehicle is still running, but nothing's happening. And then you shut your van off and you start it back up and it's going again. It's basically creating the same type of symptoms as if your fuel pump that's inside of your fuel tank would go out. It's a very similar symptoms. It's not pulling, and then sometimes it might work again. That's because your fuel is not traveling over there. But guys, basically you're gonna have like very little performance. So have a spare, because that's kind of like what's gonna happen. It's just basically gonna feel like you're not even hitting a gas pedal, guys. That's what it's gonna feel. So if you're having that type of issue, don't be scared. It's just your fuel filter, guys. Just change it and keep going. Truckers, they carry about a couple of them as spares, because once the fuel filter goes, sometimes it shuts off the truck and you just change it and keep going, because some water gets inside, and some people could drain them and stuff like that, and like reuse it. I mean, it's up to you. I just usually just put another one on and forget I even had a problem. I usually just go out and replace it at a truck stop. And I know what some of you guys are saying, well, that middle thing, it's really hard to remove from the fuel filter, and you guys are right. It is very difficult to remove. It is a pain, and you could easily break it. And if you don't have a spare one with you, then yeah, you're gonna be pretty much stuck, because you're probably not even gonna find one right away. Maybe nobody even stocks it. That's kind of like what happens, guys. Usually what I notice, if you don't have any spare parts with you, you're gonna have a problem, because you break the part and now you're stuck. So have a spare. As far as a fuel rail, a filter type of a part in the middle, I don't carry a spare one myself. I just try to not to break it. And the way I actually do it, guys, I loosen all the bolts, kind of like that's holding it down. There's just two bolts holding down. I've removed all the electrical connectors, so I just have that plastic piece inside. It's really brittle, and I just move it back and forth, kind of like rock it, keep rocking it, and try to basically wiggle it out of there. And sometimes it takes a while for me to get it out of there. Like, I'm thinking, man, it's stuck. And yes, I have broken one in the past, because I would be trying to pry it with a screwdriver, and boom, broke the plastic tab right off that screws down. You could probably still get away with one. After a while, I mean, you could see how stuck they really get on there. So probably just one screw, it's gonna be okay. I wouldn't really worry about it, especially if you're in that type of situation where you're on the road, you're at a truck stop. But anyways, guys, this video is going to come to an end, but this is all you need to really know for fuel injectors and stuff. Well, no, I'm gonna name one more thing, and this is important. That's why I want to go ahead and add it to the vehicle. Basically, guys, going back in 2010, I used to have a 2002 Sprinter, and I was driving on the highway, and what happened is some kind of thing flew off another, like a dump truck. It looked like it was a piece of rubber tire. It hit the bottom of my fuel tank, and it caused my Sprinter to basically just die. So I just pulled over to the curb and keep trying to start it up. Nothing. So I basically had to get it towed. A month later, it basically was fixed, and I paid $3,700 for it. But they charged me for a lot of extras. But the main problem was they replaced the ABS sensor, which is kind of weird. They did replace the transmission control module. I mean, not a control module, conductor plate. And they did replace my fuel injector. So here's and of course my fuel filter twice and a fuel line. So that caused it to work again. But that's kind of like what I want to say, guys. It seems like this is not that difficult, but it took him a while to figure this stuff out, and they did a lot of lying to me as well. But ultimately they got it fixed, and I didn't feel like arguing, so I just paid the amount and just went on my business. So I don't want to tell the complete story right now, but guys, so here's kind of like what I could tell you. Of course, the fuel injector they replaced. Well, they didn't really need to replace the fuel injector. All it was doing, it was just like leaking. Okay. Well, maybe it did get contaminated. It's a very good possibility. But here's what I've been smelling, guys. I've been smelling basically smoke. Well, not smoke, like kind of like exhaust inside from my vents and stuff as I was driving or idle in my van. And I was always thinking, man, I guess my my tailpipe is leaking somewhere, muffler leaking or something. So I even took it to a shop. I welded up every little hole, and but I was still getting that. And at the time, me and my wife, we drove together. I had a pretty nice sleeper, and we just basically did all the loads together. And so looks like I had blacked that situation. I didn't even know nothing about it because at the time there was no videos on YouTube about sprinters, especially like these type of problems. And every time you talk to somebody, you try to find out anything, nobody knows nothing. As a matter of fact, they'll actually mislead you to that fact to where you're gonna spend so much money. And I think that happens still. That's why I want to have my channel and clarify a lot of this stuff. But anyways, guys, looks like my fuel injector was leaking, and whenever like it got contaminated, maybe it was like too much pressure and it just possibly just got and blew the injector right out or caused it to stick out even more. That's why I could not start it, because it was completely out. Because as that black death builds up, it goes underneath the injector and basically lifts it up, and then a lot of times a bolt breaks off. So I can't remember right now, but I think they did tell me that the bolt broke. So that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, and as far as fuel tanks and replacing your fuel pump, you've seen a video already recently on my channel, guys. It's really easy to remove your fuel tank and replace it, and I even have a video how to drain all your fuel out of there. But anyways, guys, now this video is gonna come to an end. Thank you so much for watching, and I really appreciate it, guys. If you're not a subscriber just yet, please subscribe. You won't be sorry, because I'm one of those people that actually helps my viewers, and a lot of you guys got used to me over the years, became my friends, and you stay really regular to my channel and really loyal, and you watch my videos to the end, and you know, you're just awesome. You know, thank you so much for that support. It does help, and every single like I get on my videos, they do help. But you guys probably notice, like, I'm so focused on telling you guys kind of like everything that goes on, that I even forget to beg for likes and subscribers, like I see like many channels do. But keep that in mind, guys. I would be begging for subscribers and likes, just like everybody else, because that does help your channel. And now that I do have the taste of money from my channel, I do want to get as many subscribers as possible, because I'm thinking, look, if I could actually replace my revenue, at least partly, with YouTube revenue, I could spend more time at home, I could make more videos, I could do more projects, and I could share more videos with you guys of everything else that I do. Therefore, I could be motivating somebody else to do something themselves, because I try to get out every day, even though sometimes it's kind of like painful to just kind of get out and start really getting the ball rolling. Guys, believe me, I feel like that, you know, sometimes where I'm just like tired, man, because I'm working every day. I don't even take a day off, guys. I do a little late start, but I work till night, and I always have a lot of stuff that I plan to do. Like today, I still got to do some window trim, but I decided to make this video for you guys, and I got to go to auction at like 7 o'clock, a builder's auction. So I want to buy some stuff. So anyways, guys, again, thank you so much. Take care, and God bless you. Stay safe on the road. And like always, if you have questions, please ask, because I will respond. So take care, guys.